Hi, I'm Vinita.
Hello, I'm Suman.
And I am Gonzalo.
Yeah.
Gonzalo, we are really excited to have you with us here. So, a little introduction about Gonzalo. Gonzalo started his career in bioinformatics from the University of Entre Rios in Argentina and later joined as a PhD student in Professor Diego Ferreiro's lab in Buenos Aires University, where he did some exciting work in protein physiology.
For his postdoc, he moved from South America to Europe as an EMBO long-term postdoctoral fellow at Max Planck Institute for Biophysical Chemistry in Göttingen. In the group of Johannes, currently he is working in EMBL Heidelberg, Germany, where he is working with Dr. Oliver. His research interests are mainly focused on bioinformatics and computational biology, from protein structure to stem cell biology and protein dynamics to single cell transcriptomics. Currently, he is working on the development of scientific algorithms and tools for biological data analysis. We are really excited to have you today here with us, Gonzalo, and we would request you to tell us something about your work.
Thank you very much. I am the one who is also very happy to be here. It's really exciting to see all the work you do. I think it's very important. So first of all, I want to really thank you for your invitation. And I hope also that more people will accept to have these interviews with you, because I think it's very important to inspire young people. So thanks for your work. And thanks for the introduction as well. I am Gonzalo Parra. I am from Argentina originally, as it was said in the introduction. And I have been working in science more or less for the last 15 years. I started my career to study my bachelor's in 2006. And after that, I did many things, mostly in two fields of the scientific discipline in bioinformatics, which is computational biology. And I mostly work in proteins and also nowadays in multi-omics data. So just a small introduction of what my career was looking like. I started, as I said, in a very, very small university in Entre Rios in Argentina, where when I finished my bachelor, my master's from 2006 and 2010, I did my final project under the supervision of these two people. And I developed a web tool that was useful to try to find transcription factors that were regulating a specific list of genes. And we applied these to try to find transcription factors that were important to maintain the cell stem identity of different types of cells in different samples. Then I met Diego Ferreiro. He was just coming from the USA to Buenos Aires after his postdoc in the USA. And we agreed that was going to be his first PhD student. So I moved from Entre Rios, this very, very small university, to Buenos Aires, which is a big city. So that was a big change for me, because going from a very small town to a big city like Buenos Aires was kind of crazy. And then I did my PhD in Buenos Aires. But I changed my topic completely. I started to work in protein structures. So these are just representations of protein structures. And I did a symmetry analysis and energetic analysis and protein folding studies and so on. After that, from Buenos Aires, I took the decision to emigrate. I came to Europe. Specifically, I came to Germany. I contacted Dr. Johannes Soeding, and he also accepted me to come to work as a postdoc in his laboratory in the Max Planck Institute for Biophysical Chemistry. There I got my EMBO fellowship, and I changed my topic again to work in single cell transcriptomics, developing tools to understand how cells differentiate and how gene expression changes over time in different processes. After that, I had to decide what to do, if to go back to Argentina or what to do. And I decided that 2 years working this topic was not enough. But I wanted to move also to a new city, maybe a new institute, maybe less cold, because in Göttingen it was very cold for me. So I moved to EMBL in Heidelberg. Now I'm currently here in Heidelberg with Oliver Stegle. And yeah, this is my second postdoc, where I am applying all these tools that I did in single cell transcriptomics, which is medulloblastoma disease, which is a brain type of tumor that affects small children. and it's very aggressive. So we are trying to understand how the disease develops over time in these patients, and if we can find which genes are responsible for the tumor to be very aggressive or not so aggressive, and to maybe help to find some new therapies about it. So yeah, that's more or less my trajectory, let's say, over these years of working in science. And now we can start with your questions.
That has been an exciting journey, I must say.
People mention, like different people mention about different time in their life when they just found that science was the thing they really wanted to do. What was your story to be in science?
Yeah, well, I think I always have a very big curiosity for things. Since I am a very small child, I was always fascinated by why giraffes have such a long neck, or why I don't know, monkeys can do so many things with their feet. Why? And I was asking every time why, and my father was always trying to answer me and was buying me little books about science, basically. And then I moved to a very small town also with my parents, and there I started to play with a friend, and we were mixing detergent and different things we were finding in our parents' kitchen, and like a kitchen lab, but with less resources, most likely. And we were, you know, sometimes when you mix detergent and hypochlorite, you have these smoky things going. And that was fascinating for us. And there were also some TV shows like Cartoon Network. There was a cartoon called Dexter's Laboratory. And I don't know, I wanted
one of the most fascinating cartoons.
I wanted to be like Dexter. I wanted to know things, and I think that's where I started to be kind of in love with science. Yes.
Gonzalo, what motivated you to pursue bioinformatics in particular?
There is this concept of serendipity, and things just happen to you. I showed my trajectory, right? And it sounds like I took all the decisions and I moved because I wanted. And most of the time it's not that you want, and it's not that you are looking for something, things find you. So in my case, I was finishing school, I was going to a technical school, and my father is an engineer, and he wanted me to study civil engineering, which includes a lot of physics and a lot of mathematics and things. And my mother, she's a nutritionist, and she works in hospitals, and she wanted me to study more biological stuff, to study medicine and so on. So at that point, a friend of mine at school, she was going to study bioengineering, and she said, well, look at this new career that is going to be launched in the same university where I am going. Maybe you like it because it mixes biology and physics and mathematics and coding, programming, and so on. So I checked it and I said, well, I'm not sure what I want to study, so maybe I will just try this. And I went and I loved it. So it was seriously by chance. Maybe it could have been that I went there and I didn't like it, but luckily I liked it. So it was completely by chance.
That's a very important thing in science, I believe, that things find you. You arrive at it by chance, and that becomes a career. So that's quite fascinating.
Do you have any application tips that you would like to give for people who want to travel?
Yeah, well, as I said, I started in a very small university, and early on, I realized that we didn't have resources to do the things I wanted to do. So that's why from this small place, I went to Buenos Aires. I had to prepare because Buenos Aires is a very important university. And I think my advice, either to move within the country or to another country, first of all, it's important in science, of course, to know English. I think that was one thing. And my parents, when I was a kid, sent me to the English Academy to learn English. That was a plus. Many people that I know, they struggle with the English, which is a tool, a very valuable tool. But we are speaking in English now, so you don't know, you know this. But also, I think, so I wanted to go abroad also for my PhD, but I considered I was too young to live abroad. So I decided to do my PhD in Argentina and to go after my postdoc. And this is something, some people, they do abroad the PhD, and that's fantastic as well. But in my personal case, I stayed in Argentina. But after my postdoc, I was really prepared, because after a PhD, during the PhD, I was traveling a lot. I went to the USA for doing some internships. I came to Europe for conferences. So I was exposed. But I think to prepare yourself to become an international student, travel whenever you can, travel for fun, travel for holidays, and be exposed to foreigners, and yeah, try to improve your English, and yeah, just apply. There's no trick to become an international student. You have to try without being afraid of failing. I think that's the main tip, because we are all going to fail at some point. So I think that, yeah, just try.
So just try is the key.
Yeah.
You spoke about how we should not be afraid of failures, and failure being a very pertinent part of any PhD life. What are the failures that you have encountered in your career, and what were your coping up mechanisms?
Yeah. So let's say that coping with failure is not easy for anybody. Nobody likes to fail. We all would like to be successful, right? That's what we are all looking for. The thing is that in science, resources are scarce for everything. I mean, there's more people applying for the same positions than the number of positions, right? So by probabilities, if you apply to something, you have always the chance to fail. And I think we have to be aware of this probability, because if not, then, you know, when we fail, we feel devastated. So I think, first of all, we all fail at some point. I failed too many times. The thing is, and I think this is important to discuss, especially in this context, that in science, it's like a bad thing to show that you are vulnerable and that you can fail. And when we show our CVs, like the one I showed you in the beginning, I show only the success. Well, we don't show the failures. And this gives, in my opinion, what I call the idea of the toxic leadership. Like, you know, like I am perfect. I did everything well. Every time I wanted to do something, I succeed. And this creates the fake image to the students and to the new people, the young people, that if they want to be like me, they have to not fail ever. That's why I every time I give this type of talks, I always say, no, I failed a lot. And there are some talks in which I even tell my story in order, like all my success. And then I go back little by little, showing all the failures at every step. And there are a lot. So I think with failure, you just need to learn not to care. It's always a possibility. And don't take it personal. If you fail, it's not that you are bad, just you were unlucky. It was maybe not the right position, the right fit. And try again. I mean, you have 1 or 2 days to feel sorry about you, but then you wake up after 2 days, you say, okay, enough, I try again. And you try until you get it. I like a phrase that says, you only need 1 yes. And after that 1 yes, you learn to, but you have to try. Yeah, I think that's the secret.
How do you manage your time? Like, what is your work-life balance mantra?
I don't have a time managing structure, but I do, but it's internal. It's not that I write it. I will do this today, I will do this tomorrow. Yes, I have deadlines and I have an agenda. But also this has changed over the years, the different steps of my career. I think it is important to be structured, to have deadlines. Like, I want to finish this by this month or by this. You have to plan your career. So let's say you have to plan ahead of what are your plans for the future, right? If you are a master's student, you have to know already what you want to do after you graduate. So you can plan in advance. And for example, if you are the PhD student, and if you want to go abroad, after, you know that in order to go abroad, and if you come from a country like mine, I come from Argentina, and with a university that is not, you know, Ivy League like the USA, I know that I knew I had to have papers in my CV. But I knew this since I started my PhD, and I worked so I would maximize the chances for having these papers by the time I was going to be finishing my PhD. So I think in my case, what works is to have objectives of what do I need to do, what I want to do in my next career step. day by day, I don't plan so much. But yes, I do plan what are my objectives. I say, okay, I need a paper finished in the next 2 years, and I work to try to maximize the chances that this is going to be true. And what I also do a lot is to have plan B, plan C, plan D, because whatever you plan, it can fail again. During my career, many things failed. I mean, you saw that I changed my research topic many times. Sometimes this was planned, sometimes this was not planned. It was an accident, but I found a way to do something productive out of an unforeseen circumstance. So I think the worst thing you can do is to lose time in the way of doing nothing and just being sorry for yourself because things don't work. If things don't work, that's normal. Everyone in science does things that will not work. But if things are not working for 1 month or 2 months, find something else to do in the meantime, in parallel. Try to have always parallel plans. So if one of the plans fail, the other will take over. I think that's how I manage my time. And that's why I do too many things at the same time.
Oh, that is amazing. And like, how do you maintain your work-life balance?
Work-life balance is difficult. First of all, so I'm 33 years old and I have no kids. So that already tells you that, well, I don't balance my life so much. I have been traveling a lot. I have moved many times. I'm from city, from country. So, you know, I am really dedicated to my career. And I work a lot, which is also something that is not very healthy sometimes. I try to work balance in 2 ways. I try to sleep at least 7 hours when I can, at least if possible 8. That's not always possible, but I try. I try. I put, okay, if I'm going to sleep at this time, I will wake up at this time because I need to sleep. That's very important. And I try to always meet friends. It doesn't matter how busy I am. If a friend tells me, hey, do you want to have a dinner tonight? Usually I say yes, because it is important to stop. I am a very social person, so I love to be outside and partying and whatever. And I do that because also it's important. I mean, every time I can also, I don't work on the weekends, because in order to ideas to emerge, you need to leave them on a side for a bit so the idea matures in your subconscious. So for me, it's very important to have these times in which you do nothing, just watch Netflix for 1 day entirely, you know, or go for this long weekend, take the long weekend. Work is important. It fulfills our egos and our self-esteem, but it should not be the only thing. You should be able to enjoy other aspects of life. And this is because of a very basic thing. During my postdoc, I was always working a lot. And there was a moment in my PhD in which I started to have a lot of stress. I had a lot of skin problems, and my hair started to fall because I was overstressed. And then I had to stop, and then I started to say, okay, I will enjoy life a bit more. But then during my postdoc, for example, also there was a period in which I was super stressed. The problem is that when you are overstressed and you don't give yourself the time to enjoy life, if also you have a failure, like my project was not going, it was very bad, because I found myself completely unbalanced. I found myself in the middle of a failure, but also I didn't have a life to enjoy and to compensate this failure at the workplace. So after that, I started to really try to balance, and yeah, it's much easier. I mean, you hear a lot of this in academia, like you should work balance, and some people, when they are very young, they think, no, this is not so important. It is. I can tell you from firsthand, sometimes if you don't take care of your mental health and your well-being, it can be very tough. So yeah, try to enjoy whenever you can life. Yes.
That is an amazing advice.
So is there any particular incident that you would like to tell us, which could be a lesson for us to learn from?
Yes. So I said, this career, at some point, it was really, really tough. And I think also in science, we are trained to not show weakness. We should always, like, we are strong and we know where we are going, we know what we are doing. And this is completely not true. And when I was at EMBL is very cool because they have a lot of tools to help people with the mental health. And I started mindfulness courses in which you do meditation and you can talk about your problems, and you see also that most people in this super prestigious institute, they are also going through the same struggle. And because of that, I started therapy with a psychologist also. And I go to therapy maybe once a month or once every 2 months. And this is, where you talk and say, okay, I'm doing this, I have these problems, I don't know how to deal with this situation. So for me, this is called personal coaching also. It's very important to find a professional that can help you with these decisions, right? And for me, it works because the coaching can really give you perspective. Otherwise, some people can do it on their own, but when you are under very stressful situations, and if you just go, well, sometimes you will take decisions you may regret in the future. And with the coaching, you can talk about these situations, these stressful situations, and then you can find the better way of which is the best decision for this situation without being in the heat of the moment. So for me, that's very important. Yes, to find the ways to. Also, you can do this with friends, right? You can talk with friends, but sometimes friends are not enough. That's my take. Sometimes you need to find help from a professional. And in science, there are many professionals that are specialized in scientific people, and they know how to give you advice. And this is important for me because mental health is the most important thing in your life, basically, and this is very, very common in very prestigious institutes like Max Planck, EMBL, Harvard, MIT, or whatever, that people, they are so stressed that they burn out. And if you burn out, well, it's not easy to recover from a burnout. You can spend months in a clinic under rehab. And I have seen this. It's very, very sad because these people could have prevented this if they could have gotten help. Yeah.
I completely resonate with you on this.
How your personality changed in all these years?
Oh, well, science really changes you. I mean, at least in my case and in my friends, I think I have become a person that is very logical. I always, even if I discuss about economics or about which is the best car or which is the best pair of shoes for doing something, I always find a scientific method to compare and to so sometimes I think I became too nerdy, but also I have become very structured, very efficient, because in science you get trained to solve problems in an efficient way, and then you apply this to your life in general. So I think over the years I have become very structured and more methodic.
Since you were mentioning about the other things that you would like to do, so I wanted to ask you what if not science?
Well, I love music. So since I am in my PhD years, I am doing vocal training. So I sing. I love to sing. So I did classical singing, then I did pop singing, pop music singing, rock music singing. Here at EMBL, we have a music club. So some people play the piano and we do performances and concerts. That's something I love, to do music. But then I do a lot of sports. I like to run. I love to play tennis. Yeah, I do very sports, and also I love to wine tasting. So to try different wines
Oh, that's pretty
and to
uncommon.
cook a very nice yeah, and to find a very nice type of food that goes with this specific wine.
What do you think are the three best qualities a mentor?
The first thing you should not care too much is how important they are in science. Of course, we all want to work with the bright geniuses, but this is, of course, important, but it's not the most important. I think the most important thing from a PI supervisor is that they have empathy, first of all, that they are good people. I mean, and good people is a very abstract concept, but I would say, would you have lunch in a restaurant with that person? If the answer is yes, well, that's a good indication. If you would feel afraid of that person, no, that would not be. So I think a PI needs to be a supervisor, and supervisor, right? A supervisor needs to be empathetic, so they should be able to see when they are pressuring too much. They should care for your career. They should be mentors. They should teach you. A supervisor should be a person who cares about you and the next step in your career. Because there are many supervisors or mentors. Well, mentors no, because a mentor is a good supervisor. Right? Every supervisor should be a mentor. Otherwise, they are just a boss. And I think, for example, many supervisors, they fail in the sense that they pressure their PhD students too much. And then at the end, because of this, these students lose the love for science. Every time I see a PhD student that doesn't like science anymore, behind there was always a very toxic supervisor. And this is very sad. So I think the mentors need to be empathetic, we need to care about your career, and it's very important. I think they need to be available for the future. It's, when I advanced in my career, and I was always able to go back and talk to my supervisors about my current state. When you have to take this decision, who are you going to ask, right? Well, I go and ask my PhD supervisor. He's a professor. He knows much more than me. He has experienced much more than me. And it's very important for me to have him as a friend now, with whom I can talk about these things. I mean, it's very sad when you do a PhD and then you lose contact with your supervisor. And so you should look for a mentor that is going to take care of you over time.
That's very, very important and advice for anybody who's looking for PhD and choosing supervisors, I think. Yeah.
I mean, that's what I try to do also with my students. I try to, to guide them, to give them the tools to become independent thinkers and researchers in the future.
You must have, in all these years, you must have got a lot of mentees who would have worked with you. So is there any particular book that you suggest people to read, like this is a must read?
I don't read much, to be honest. I read scientific books. There's one from Steve Pinker. It's called The Language Instinct. I love that book. It's about how humans develop language and how the meaning of words in different languages, they are related because of the structure of the brain and how the brain shapes language and how it evolves. It's very interesting. I'm very interested in things about the mind. I read a lot of philosophy, and there is I don't know if people like this author, but there's this author Osho.
Yeah.
Well, there is a book called The Conscience. It's very interesting, about the ego and why we get angry, why we get sad. I mean, I like these things. I'm kind of, in that sense, a bit atypical.
Name any particular research paper which you find to be revolutionary in your field of work, or something which you've always hailed.
Yeah, well, in my case, I have two people that I admire a lot. One is Peter Wallines. He is the guy who came up with the theory of how proteins fold. He published this theory the same year I was born. And so the theory is as old as I am. But also I was later on able to collaborate with him. So we have papers
Wow.
together.
Wow.
So I
That's
admire him
fascinating.
so much, and that has been a lot of happiness for me. He's super bright. I mean, he was a professor in Harvard at the age of 21.
Wow.
And then another person I admire a lot is Christine Orengo. She's a professor in London. She is a pioneer in bioinformatics. She has done a lot, but also she's a very warm person. She's a very good person. She's a mentor, you know. She's this kind of people that care about people's career. She's a legend. She's so famous, but still she always has an advice for young people. If you go and talk to her, she's so humble, and she's a role model for me. If I ever become half important as she is, I want to be humble as she is, and to have time always for young people to improve people's careers and to help them to advance. Yeah,
that's really wonderful, because at the end of the day, it's very important to be a good human being, I believe. One question which is specifically pertinent to young students who are looking at bioinformatics as a career option. So what are the job opportunities for a bioinformatician apart from research and PhD?
Well, bioinformaticians nowadays, they are required everywhere. To be honest, there are not enough bioinformaticians because companies, they need them. So I would say you can work in a pharmaceutical company, you can work in anything, basically in a machine learning company. You can work in companies that adapt sequencing technologies for studying how to improve, I don't know, tomatoes, or it's huge. The options in industry for bioinformaticians are huge. I receive requests in mailing lists all the time. We need a bioinformatician for this, for that. So the market is huge right nowadays.
Bioinformatics is still, I personally feel, since I belong to a small town in India, so I personally feel that, bioinformatics is still like spread in a very small section, like very small section of the community knows about bioinformatics. Maybe because electronics is like the computers and phones, we think it is reaching everywhere, but it is actually not reaching everywhere. So like, what do you want to say about it? Like, people fear bioinformatics, actually. I'd seen people fearing bioinformatics, and you are a bioinformatician.
Yeah.
Well, bioinformatics is nice because I think it's easier to do bioinformatics in countries where there are not so many resources, because computing power is cheaper than, if you have to do stem cells research where you need a lot of machines and things. With a personal computer, you can do some bioinformatics. Of course, many things require supercomputers, and this is not easy to do in a place without resources. But you can do a lot of things without too many resources. Actually, my whole PhD was done with a personal computer, because I was doing biophysics, so it was all about calculating symmetries and mathematical calculations, and so I didn't need so much computing power. So that's cool, I think. And for example, in your kitchen lab, I mean, you could learn. If you have people there, you could learn to do bioinformatics. The only trick is to find good tutorials and good supervisors that could lead you on what to do and to do it in the right way. Because the problem also with bioinformatics is that, you don't have the experiment to tell you if what you're doing is okay or not, right? Because if the cell dies, then you're doing something wrong, right? If you're doing protein purification and the protein aggregates, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
In bioinformatics, the problem is that the computer will always give you an answer, and if you are not trained enough to know this is the wrong answer, then you may build a whole hypothesis about the biological system around this answer, and you can maybe realize many months in the future that it was all bad just because the experiment was badly designed. The experiment, I mean the computational experiment.
Yeah.
So yeah, from one side, bioinformatics is cool because it's cheaper. From another side, you have to be very careful because the computer always gives you an answer, and you should be sure that this answer is the right one or the best one. Maybe because sometimes there's not the right answer, but the best answer.
One last question to finish that we really wanted to ask you. So you are involved in computational biology group. And so do you want to tell us something about it, like how you got involved into it?
So yeah, the student council I am part of is part of the International Society for Computational Biology. That's the meaning of ISCB. And this is an international community of students that we have regional student groups. That's the meaning of RSG, regional student group. And there are groups everywhere in the world. So I started one together with some friends, the one in Argentina. That's how I started to be involved in this community. And then there are RSGs in all these countries. I mean, this is not an up-to-date list, but for example, in Argentina, there was nothing. So we created Argentina, and then we helped to create Chile. We created Brazil, Mexico, Colombia, Venezuela, Costa Rica, Peru. And I am currently the vice president of the whole organization. And for example, this is the ones that we created. So we have been working the last 10 years to improve the Latin American community. So in 2012, we created Argentina, and then we started to create all these others in other countries in these years. So this has been a huge work with a lot of people. And yeah, there are in India, there are in some countries of Asia, in Australia, in the USA, in Europe, there are many. So yeah, it's a very nice community. So you are welcome to join, to participate, to contact me if you have questions. Yes.
Thank you so much, Gonzalo, for sharing a lot from different bits, like talking about work-life balance and the failures, how you dealt with it, and how it is so important to celebrate failures, because I feel there's a need to celebrate failures.
I celebrate you for taking your personal time to do this. I mean, as I have said in my interview, I also take time to do community development and so on. And this is very important. And I have done this for many years already. And there have been moments in which it feels it's a lot of work, but there have been also moments in which after many years, some very young student in a very small city sends me a message saying, thanks to the talk you gave some years ago, I decided to study bioinformatics, and now I'm pursuing my PhD. And I think you will also get this kind of messages in the future, because what you do is very important.
Thank you so much for believing in us and giving such a candid and honest interview.
And maybe for a positive note to finish, science needs to always be funny. You have to always enjoy it, like when you were a kid and you would discover a new chocolate, you know. So have in mind to always enjoy it. There are going to be always moments in which it's difficult because it's hard work also. But the important thing is to always enjoy it and to be happy with your supervisors and your decisions and your colleagues. If you have the bad luck at some point to end up in a toxic environment, just leave. There's nothing wrong. You can always find a new group where you're going to be happier. Sometimes you need to stay for a little bit to finish and to move on, but there's always a solution. So, and if you don't find a solution, try to find always older people that can give you an advice. In science, also, we have learned that we have to take care of the younger people as well. So a lot of people are open to give advice to young people. So if you ever are in need, look for those people that you know they can give you a nice advice. It's very important. Yeah. And enjoy. Good luck with your projects and your careers.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.